Good evening, my name is Matthew Ludwig and I'm reporting to you live from the Garage News Desk. In our latest story today, another company is again struggling with corporate social responsibility, in this case Apple. If you remember, corporate social responsibility is the expectation that a company will operate ethically and the availability of Good evening, my name is Matthew Ludwig and I'm reporting to you live from the Garage News Desk. In our latest story today, Apple is once again struggling with corporate social responsibility. If you remember, corporate social responsibility is the expectation that a company will operate ethically. In today's modern business world, with the availability of information that is available to consumers, certain companies, specifically in this case Apple, can no longer evade public awareness of their overseas operation. In the latest report, Apple, if you remember, who struggled previously in 2012 with overseas business practices and ethics violations that led to numerous suicides and causes of employees to claim that they were going to commit suicide, has once again, in an investigative report, apparently been continuing to commit ethics violations, or at least not taking any steps to stop them by their overseas partners. In the 2012 incident, it was their affiliate Foxconn who was responsible for the unethical business practices of poor workplace conditions and overworking their employees while providing little compensation for their long hours and often days and days on end without any vacation opportunities or time off, as well as overcrowding and poor living conditions. This latest scandal is a continued indifference. As if you remember, the problem was not that Apple was encouraging these poor business practices, it's that they seemed to show indifference over whether or not they were going on or whether or not they continued. This apparently is still happening. In a latest report reported on by the BBC, in which investigative journalists actually signed up and worked inside the Apple factories, what they found was that the majority of employees were still working over 12-hour days, working weeks on end with no time off, and were living in very crowded dormitories with unsanitary conditions. This stems back to 2012, where the only response Apple had to the scandal at that time was to hire an independent agency to review what was going on in their factories, and there was little public accountability following any review and no real notification of what changes they actually made to their business practices. This likely directly led right up to the latest allegations in which the practice seems to be continuing. However, this time it is from their affiliate Pegatron, who runs factories that also produce their iPhone and iPod line. And so it's not the same company this time, but it is the same circumstances. The reason behind this is likely due to the strategic shift that Apple has had to make, whereas previously they had occupied a niche in the market with the offering of the iPhone and the iPod, which was then matched by companies like Google with their Android platform, or the Microsoft line of phones using the Microsoft-developed OS. So they had to shift away towards trying to be the lowest cost provider instead of using differentiation due to the similarities between the phones of the various companies. So this shift obviously required them to look to cut costs in any way possible in order to maximize profits. As we know in the modern business world, constant growth and quarterly profits are what indicate success to shareholders, and Apple is well known for trying to maximize profits with their new offerings and sensationalism. So it's not overly surprising that they continue these practices. There's also been little backlash by consumers. Really, the way that things are going to change is if consumers purposefully take a stand and show that they are not okay with Apple's practices and start purposely pursuing options like the Android rather than the Apple platform to force Apple back into ethics compliance and renew their focus on corporate social responsibility. As we've seen multiple times, consumers are more than capable, but this latest scandal does not seem to be getting a large amount of attention in the press, at least not compared to when the first scandal broke and the attention that it received. So this, as it stands right now, this is likely not to encourage, will not likely encourage Apple to crack down on the actions of their overseas factories. So I would, if anyone's listening, I would highly encourage that if you want to make a difference in this case and encourage consumers back towards taking care of people, especially in spite of government oversight, as has been reported numerous times that China lacks it, you're going to have to start pursuing other options. And just for the record, this news report is filmed on an Android phone.